Hello, welcome back, or welcome. I'm Stephen. First, an apology. Apology number one. This video is going out a bit later than usual. I'm not going to be able to meet my usual Tuesday deadline, so you will be seeing this on Wednesday. The reason for this is I've been a bit tired through lack of sleep. With it being the 5th of November weekend just gone, there's been a lot of fireworks going off at night, all through the weekend. And for people like me, well, it's not many of us, but for people like me who have to get up at 2 AM in the morning on work days, fireworks going off until nearly 11 o'clock at night is not ideal. So I've only had 3 or 4 hours sleep each night of the weekend, which wouldn't be a problem if it was a weekend off, but it was a working weekend. So there we are. Second apology, yeah, I know, yellow and purple shouldn't really be seen together, but hey, it's winter. Well, it's not winter, it's autumn, but we're pushing into winter. I want to keep warm. I don't have any yellow pullovers or hoodies or any kind of yellow warm clothing apart from my hat, and yellow is the colour I've allocated for Colin Baker, so yellow hat I have to wear. Now today's story is the two doctors, and it's so weird that so early on in my series of reviews I've already hit my third Colin Baker story, and not only that, it's the third Colin Baker story from season 22. And season 22, as I think I've said before, is quite evocative for me, because it's really the season, although I've seen stories previously, season 22 is really the season where I first decided I was going to be a dedicated Doctor Who fan. So I've got very strong memories of all these stories. So without further ado, it's time for you know what, but there's a bit of a change. It's a Colin Baker story, but it's also a Patrick Troughton story. So, will two doctors go in my hat? Let's find out. I think Colin Baker's going to be the more difficult of the two to get in, because he's a more substantial figure. Oh, I need a much wider brim. I can see this is going to go pear-shaped pretty quickly. Okay. Try again with old Colin. Right. Oh, he's already leaning a bit, isn't he? Because I've got him on the side there. Now for Patrick. Okay. Now, I looked like some sort of bizarre science fiction horned beast, don't I? Okay. Oh, it's time to talk about Doctor Who. I've got the doctors in my hat. I'll have to stay very, very, very still, or they'll fall out and go splat. I'm not going to nod my head much this time. I do not want to have to put them in again. Okay. Peace. Relax. Okay. The two doctors. Now, back in 1985, early 1985, I was not yet to turn 11, I was still 10. My brother was 7, coming up to 8. It would have been very close to 8 by the time this one was shown. If not 8, I'd have to check the dates, but I think not quite 8. But anyway, when we were kids, our parents never bought a TV listings magazine except for the 2-week special edition which came out at Christmas. So we didn't have the Radio Times to have free knowledge about what was coming on. So on we got our TV listings in the daily newspaper, which in our house we took the Yorkshire Post. So that morning the Yorkshire Post came through the letterbox, and I looked to see what the title of the new Doctor Who story was, and I saw it was the two Doctors. So my little mind started racing, getting all excited. I was wondering, who's going to be the other Doctor? Who's going to be the other Doctor? Well, I knew who all the past Doctors were, of course. I knew it wouldn't be William Hartnell because I knew he'd passed away. I was pretty sure it wouldn't be Peter Davison because he'd only just left. I longed for it to be Tom Baker, but I thought that was most unlikely because I knew he hadn't done the 5 Doctors. So that just left Patrick Troughton and Jon Pertwee. And I had no idea which it would be. I'll admit, I was hoping it would be Jon Pertwee. No offence to Patrick Troughton, but I was really hoping it was going to be Jon Pertwee. So when the show started, and of course you have that first scene where the second Doctor and Jamie are in the TARDIS, and it's shot in black and white for the first, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds or so, before it sort of fades up into colour. So I saw it was Patrick Troughton, and I felt a slight pang of disappointment that it wasn't Jon Pertwee, but that didn't last long because I soon got into it. And aside from having seen the Troughton's some years earlier and caught the 5 Doctors, this was my first experience of Patrick Troughton, and I thoroughly enjoyed him in this. Not knowing much about him, it was perhaps the Doctor I knew the least about at that point. Now, Patrick Troughton is given the sort of almost the first third of episode 1 to himself, and then Colin Baker comes in for the remainder of the first episode, and it's the Patrick Troughton bits, the scenes with the Starry and Shockeye are just wonderful. I mean, I didn't know at the time how effortlessly Patrick Troughton just slipped right back into the role, but when you look at his... Look, I'm doing the Patrick Troughton gesture, second Doctor gesture. When you look at his own stories from his own era, and then you look at this, you see it's the same performance, it's just spot on. Of course, it looks different. His hair has gone quite grey by this point. They've chosen not to dye it black, which has led to all this fan speculation about season 6B. And for those who don't know, just in brief, season 6B is the theory that after the events of the War Games, the Time Lords gave the Doctor a brief reprieve before they forced him to regenerate, and he went back and collected Jamie again and Victoria again, and had more adventures before his exile. And that sort of is given further evidence by this story, because in the plot he is working unofficially as a emissary for the Time Lords. And he says, you know, because he's not officially working for the Time Lords, they can always deny that they sent him. Anyway, that's the second Doctor's route into this story. This is top heavy. Meanwhile, the 6th Doctor is fishing, and that's just the start of one of the threads of this story. Is meat eating versus vegetarianism, because the writer Robert Holmes was a vegetarian, and goodness me does he let us know it in this story. It's about as subtle as a fairground mallet on an egg. It's actually excruciatingly annoying. I imagine if you're a vegetarian you don't notice this so much, but if you're not a vegetarian, then all the anti-meat propaganda that runs through this is very distracting and just takes you out of the story time and time again. That's just a little niggle though. I mean, the overall plot is pretty sound. Now, I do want to talk about the Sontarans, and it's especially interesting for me at this moment because I've been re-watching The Two Doctors at the same time as Jodie Whittaker's third series has just started on BBC One. We've had the first two episodes of the first series, both of which have featured the Sontarans. The second episode, War of the Sontarans, they feature very, very heavily indeed. So it's been interesting to watch two different versions of the Sontarans. Now, for my money, the Sontarans in The Two Doctors are the least satisfactory representation of the Sontarans. A lot is said about how they're too tall, and that's probably true. I mean, that's just by dint of the fact that in their first two appearances they were played by Kevin Lindsay, who was quite a small chap, and then in Invasion of Time they were played by Derek Deadman, who was even shorter. And then suddenly we've got Clinton Vane, who was a big man. I mean, you may remember him from his previous Doctor appearance where he played Ivo, the headman of the village in the Tom Baker story State of Decay. So he's a tall man. And the other Sontaran, Val, is not quite as tall as Stike. But Stike, played by Clinton Vane, he is tall. And it's a bit odd having Sontarans of slightly different heights in it, because they're supposed to be cloned, so they should all be the same height. But anyway, height isn't the main issue I have with Stike. And Val, everything about them is just a little bit off, although I didn't know it at the time I watched it as a kid. The mouth is wrong, it's just like a great big slit running across the face with very little character. The ears are sort of flat to the side of the head and sort of weird. And worst thing of all about Stike is he has a costume malfunction all the way through the story. The big neck collar is so loose at the bottom it doesn't touch his suit at all, and you know, you could run a herd of cattle up the gap between that neck collar and the suit. And also the other thing about Stike is the way he swaggers around. He doesn't move in the way that we normally see Sontarans move. His walk is totally different, and overall you just get the feel that J&T wanted to put the Sontarans in this story but didn't do his research on how Sontarans should be. Now, Robert Holmes, the writer, he created the Sontarans originally. He wrote the first Sontaran story, The Time Warrior. So he handles them well. The script is good. The Sontarans act, speak like Sontarans should, but they don't look right. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I mean, others may feel differently. And of course, the other thing about this story that I want to raise is Patrick Troughton's wonderful performance in the third episode when he's received the androgam genetic material into his body, and he just, you know, his whole face changes, not just through the makeup but the way he carries his face, if you like, and it's just a wonderful performance as a sort of androgam version of the Doctor. Love it. What else do I want to say about this story? Of course, it's one of only 4 20th century Doctor Who stories to film in foreign parts. Spain, Andalusia in this case, and it's adds something to the story. It looks blazing hot, but I mean, can you imagine how uncomfortable the actors playing the Sontarans must have been in that heat? It just doesn't bear thinking about, does it? Who'd want that job? Who would want to be in their right mind would want to play a Doctor Who monster? Anyway, I think that's all I've got to say about this one. And Colin agrees, because Colin and Patrick are leaving the building. Okay, time to pick the next story. Let's see what we've got next, shall we? Okay, here we are. You know the drill by now. I've got the random number generator here. At the moment, there are 283 entries on it. For those who don't know, the new series isn't going on the number generator yet. I'm going to give it all new episodes 6 months before they're added. And at this point, I've not yet decided in what form I'm going to add this season, whether I'll just put it all as one or have it as 6 different stories. How I'm going to handle Trial of the Time Lord might be the template for this, because I've got Trial of the Time Lord on here as just one thing, but when it comes up, I won't review it all in one go. I will spend a whole 4 weeks on it, so that might be the thing to do with Flux. Maybe just put Flux on here as one thing, and when it comes up, spend 6 weeks on it. But anyway, that's for well into next year. At the moment, we have still got, apart from the 2 Doctors which we just had, the Troughton era is still untapped, as is McGann, Eccleston, and perhaps most surprisingly, nothing has come up for Tennant yet. So, let's see what we're going to get. Let's spin. I thought it'd stop, not quite stop. Oh, 155. That's gone. Bearing in mind what I've taken out already, that's right on the cusp between 20th and 21st century. Actually, I'm not quite sure where it's going to fall until I look at my spreadsheet. So let's go to spreadsheet. 155. Oh, okay. Okay, so we are getting a Doctor that we've not yet had. So this is quite exciting. We are going to have our first look at Christopher Eccleston, and we're going to be talking about Father's Day, which I'm really looking forward to. That is an absolute joy of a story to watch. So please join me on Sunday for my next Sunday chat, and after that, please join me for Father's Day. Meanwhile, please like, comment, subscribe. Please tell your friends. Please tell my friends. I'll see you later. Bye.